what people have turned in so far regarding the assignment. And uh, what I'm going to be doing is critiquing these entries. And I want to remind everybody that I'm not critiquing as to whether or not it's good art per se. That's not the priority. What I'm critiquing is whether it fits what we've been talking about in regards to the assignment and uh, the parameters of the assignment, both written and discussed. Every week, we're going to do a recording. Again, you do not have to be here present for it. You just need to watch the recording to get your um, attendance points for it. And every week, we're going to be looking at what people have turned in and critiquing that in relationship to the assignment, as I've said. If things are not fitting the assignment, or if they aren't up to expectations, I'm trying very hard to make sure that nobody can see the names of the people whose work that I look at. And if things are not consistent with what the assignment parameters are, you always have an opportunity to work over it and resubmit. We only have 4 submissions to go over, which is disappointing, which means it's going to be more difficult for people who haven't submitted their stuff to get caught up. So get caught up as quickly as you can. I'm going to be looking at some of these again next week, and we are going to be also talking about the second module, talking about that a little bit. I One thing I've noticed is that several people have turned in their uh, artist research or service learning type things, and I am going through that. Again, things are a little bit behind simply because I'm having spotty internet right now. Next week it'll be back to normal, and I suspect the rest of the summer will be just fine. But I wanted to do this first kind of assignment review to give you an idea of how this class is going to work. I want everybody to get the assignment done on the due date as much as possible, so we have things to look at the next class meeting. And then you have an opportunity to look at what I've said about the works, gather what information you can from that, and improve your own work. And um, there, there's a couple things that I noticed this week that I was really happy with. A couple things that I think the person needs an opportunity to go back and fix. And when you see your work, this is one of the reasons why it's very important to watch these recordings. When you see your work and hear what they have to say about it, you'll understand why you received the grade that you did and what you can do to fix it. Again, there's absolutely no reason why everybody can't get an A in this class. You have lots of opportunities to look at what I have said when you turn things in. You have lots of opportunities to fix that and resubmit um, as, with every assignment. If, for example, your work log was turned in as a photo of handwritten notes, you're not going to get any points for it because everything needs to be typed. So you just turn around, redo it as a typed document, and resubmit. Not a big deal. If you've turned in stuff that's in HEIC format and I can't read it through my system, all you have to do is rework it as a JPEG. And I think one of the students last week or the week before said the easiest way to do that is to make a screenshot with your phone and then turn in the screenshot because the screenshot becomes a JPEG. I don't know if that's true. Sounds good. I'd say do whatever you can to fix it, and it should not be a big fix. One thing I did notice is we have 5 specific photos for this um, assignment, and not a single person has labeled their submissions with those names. So if I look at it and I don't give you the score that you want, because I'm not understanding what you're turning in, it really helps if you submit it and follow the directions in the assignment. All right. So I'm going to do a screen share right now. Well, in just a second, I'll do a screen share. I've got to Sometimes things don't work out the way I want them to. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is what my screen looks like. And I have not done a lot of grading this week because I have done a little bit, but not very much because, like I said, my internet has been really spotty. So I'll be working on that today, some more, um, and especially get these done. These I've looked at, so we have photos to show you today, and I will go through and uh, right here, artist research or service line. Notice that I have not graded all that yet. I will take care of that immediately after we get off this call. And because I have internet right now. And I hope that everybody has gone through and read all these things. There gets every semester there's a little bit of confusion as to what these little symbols mean. For the most part, the only things that you have to turn in are discussions and where you see a symbol like this with a page with a pencil on it, that usually indicates that that's an assignment to turn in. All the rest of them that have dates on them, all of these are things that you need to read by. And so read at the first of the semester, all that kind of stuff. And if you have any questions about that, feel free to get a hold of me. And right here, this is what the attendance looks like. You notice that a lot of people have turned in attendance. And on my screen, I have these, which is just, these are assignments that I've copied over from previous semesters. I'll relabel them as each week goes by, so you're only responsible for what's published. And then these are the modules. This is the one that we're talking about today. And then the next one I published is this one. And I don't know if I published all of these. Let's see if I published. Okay, I'm going to be publishing these as well today. I just have to update the due dates on them. And again, I wanted to remind people that right here, Module 7A, Artist Researcher Service Learning, it's very important that you do that. We've had several people that turned it in. Like right here, you can see that I have fallen behind on grading that. When you turn it in, if you do the service learning, there's 3 artist research assignments that will disappear from your list of things to do. And if you do artist research, there are 4 service learning assignments that will disappear from your list of things to do. And as I mentioned, we have a couple more modules up. I will be publishing these as I remain on the internet. Hopefully I'll get some more done, published today. I just have to update the due dates on them. And this week, notice that there's some due dates March 20 or May 21 and stuff like that. It's really important that you start looking at this defining volumetric form with line so that next week we can talk about this assignment so you can work on it. But I want you to, as you are finishing up this, I want you to start working on this one. And we'll talk about that before we leave today. All right, so we are going to sculpture-based photography. And as you look at each of these, the background artists, each of these do something a little bit different. Andy Goldsworthy, he uses almost all natural, well, I think uses all naturally occurring objects and things for his stuff. When he does his painting, he actually he doesn't use paint so much as he tears up leaves of different colors and he uses the leaves to look like the paint and he uses water to hold them in place. It's all designed to be rather ephemeral. So it disappears very quickly. One of the more interesting of his series, I think, is during rainstorms, he may lay down and block the water from hitting the ground under him, and then he'll get up and photograph it. And so it's something that will not last beyond the life of the photo. Sandy Scoglin builds these sculptural environments that are very complicated that she takes photos of. James Casimir does some really interesting architectural models that he photographs. And Alejandra Laviada does some very interesting stuff as well. And these, I'm trying to find some good videos to put up here that are short for you to see, but you're only responsible for what the links are. And if any of them don't work, please let me know. Thomas Allen, I really like his stuff. I used to read these kinds of books, um, where he will take pulp fiction that's really super cheaply published entertainment books from 1920 to 1960 and do some fascinating things with the covers, sculptural, and then I'll take photos of the dioramas that he makes. And Slinkachu, his stuff is designed to be invisible until people notice it, and most often the only notice they get is with the photos. And Isaac Cordall, I like his stuff. Slinkachu has a definite sense of humor that's kind of lighthearted and a little bit ironic. Isaac Cordall has a sense of humor too that's a lot more dark. That I think is really interesting. And then Polly Becker as well has some very, very interesting stuff. So all these give examples of how photography is used as an integral element to presenting the finished artwork that the person makes. And then for the artist review, what you're doing is looking at that group of artists. I believe there are 9 of them. And you're going to be usually you're going to be picking 1 or 2 artists from that group to work with. And this one, it's in paragraph 1, you're describing what you learned overall from all the looking at all the artists. In paragraph 2, you're finding one artist whose work that you like the most and talk about why. And then you need to pick in paragraph 3, 4 of the methods for involving the viewer that are discussed in chapter 1 and talk about that artist you pick in paragraph 2. Give a brief explanation for each of those 4 ways that they involve the viewer that you picked out of the list of 9 from chapter 1. So, and when you submit those essays, I understand that you guys are not professional writers. That's why you became artists. That's why we became artists, because we find it a lot easier to communicate with the work that we make instead of what we write. But it is the, according to department mandate, we do need to have a writing component for this class. And as you work on these writings, it's fine to use AI to help you organize your thoughts. But again, these must be your thoughts. So do not use AI to write this. And if you do use AI to help you organize your thoughts, you can mention that in the comments on when you turn the assignment in. Say, hey, I used AI to help me. But again, the words that you use must be your words. And notice that each of these module assignments also have the work log. And what I'm noticing is that you guys are pretty good at filtering out what you've done for that module and putting it into the work log. And that's great. That's exactly what you need to do. And for the discussion, when you turn stuff in, um, this is one of the reasons why it is important to at least get something submitted by the due date, because then everybody can do the discussion assignment where you need to respond to other people's things. And not every module has a component where you have to respond to what other people do. This one does. And we talked about that last week. And if nobody turns in their stuff when they need to, nobody can do the discussion. So submit something so that people can do the discussion. All right, now I'm going to be showing the assignments. I believe we're going to be doing that. Okay, here we go. All right, hopefully you guys can see all this. So I'm going to stop sharing and reshare this again so make sure that we can get it. Right, here we go. So each of these people are going to be showing you have 5 photos. And if you remember, the 5 photos that are required, we need to have, let's see, close-up, distance view, unusual setting, unexpected lighting, and super creative view or light with a lighting filter. Okay, so it looks like this might be the close-up. And if they're not in order, that's fine if you label everything. But as we do this assignment, a couple of things that I'm looking for is, main one is, did you follow the directions? I asked everybody to make a house that was creative and fun. This looks like it was really, really tiny. There is a lot of detail, which I think is good. I, in the assignment, did say 6 inches in one direction. This looks like it's a lot smaller than that. And I wonder if, excuse me, the time was spent on this, creating it, that may not be so bad. But if this person does lose any points, it's because the house is so tiny. There's a reason why I give the assignments the way that I do, and you need to follow them. Uh, that will help you get the most out of what's going on. But there are some elements of the assignment that are a little bit more flexible than others. One that is inflexible is that the house needs to look like it's well made. Another one that's inflexible is we need 5 different views. If you have 4 views or 3 views, that's you're going to be missing points. And another point, one that's really important about this assignment is each of the 5 views need to be separate. Remember we talked about a week or two ago, I was talking about how one person took 5 shots as they were walking around their house. That does not count as separate views. Same setup and you're just walking around. And in that case, the easiest thing to do is to take more photos of your house and resubmit them, follow the directions. Now I'm inclined because there is so much detail in this, and but it is so tiny. I'm inclined to think that they may have spent as much time making this tiny thing as other people would have done something that's 6 inches. So this looks like it's only about 2.5 inches. So I'm inclined to dismiss that because of the level of detail. Okay, so here's the far away view. This looks like it's a little bit bigger than that. So maybe my initial size estimate was off. Now this is at the base of a tree as well, just like this one, but it's obvious it's a different tree and it's a different setting. So I'm liking that. Maybe this isn't at the base of a tree. Maybe it's in the crook of a branch. That's nice. But I'm liking how they're playing around with leaves and doing a lot of really very different things with the atmosphere around it. And here it looks like it's at maybe at a path or whatever with grass around it. I like this kind of out of focus thing right here, but it really illustrates the size and you have a different angle. But this is really a fun view. And I kind of like this juxtaposition of the house on the fence with a barn style house behind it. So that's a pretty creative setup. Okay, so this person did all 5 of these, and it looks like they did a good spread following what we were looking for. Let's see, I'm going to go back. Okay, so we have the close-up, we have the distance view, we have unusual setting, unusual. Well, the next one is supposed to be unexpected lighting. I don't see that here. And maybe those are because this has a lot of really interesting lighting with the shadows and leaves. So I'm thinking this one is probably supposed to be the unexpected lighting, and this is the unusual view. And then this is the super creative, where it's on a fence and stuff. So this is one of the reasons why I have asked that you label the images. As we talked about that last week, so that we can make sense when we look at them. We can make sense of what's going on. But in this case, I think that was pretty obvious. However, when you submit this assignment, instead of leaving the numbers, the random numbers that are in the file, it helps to label the file. Or you can even put a note in saying, hey, this is the order that I've submitted them. And that's fine too. So if you lose any points, remember that. Okay, these are really interesting, and this is another one where I think it's out of sequence. Okay, so maybe this is an unusual setting, and this person may need to go back and just label these so that I know which ones are which. But I think the house is really creatively done. I think this is maybe unexpected and creative. This is a distance view. Maybe this is a close-up or unusual lighting. This is very interesting. So we do have all five there. They're just, again, they're out of sequence. But this house, I think, is really fascinating. I think they've done a really good job at putting a lot of detail and texture into it. So I think this turned out really well. And I really like this photo, particularly because it's the house is completely out of context. It's not resting on anything. And I think that the carpet design serves as almost like a frame around the house. I think that's kind of a fun one. Okay, so let's see if we can see what's going on in the five different views. Maybe this is a close-up. Maybe unusual lighting. Oh no, maybe that's unusual lighting. Oh, I think maybe this is unusual lighting. That's the one with the creative filter or whatever. Unusual setting, maybe. We have a close-up and we have the little bit of a distance one. This house I think is really interesting. You can tell it's not really super complicated, but they've done a good job being creative about the use of texture. And I like how they made the doors and the windows are on a different plane than the surface of the material. I think that's really well done. And this is kind of a fun way of doing it, where it looks like the windows have that transparent, almost like cooking parchment with the lighting from the inside. That's really fascinating. This is a very cool one, I think, with the black and white filter. And we have the Harry Potter on either side and bobbleheads, kind of giving it a fantasy type feel. And this is rather intimidating with that special lighting. This one, I think this is a really interesting setup. The house seems very plain. It does not, there's not a lot going on here. Um, and it's the construction is solid and it's simple, but there's just not a lot of texture here. And I'm thinking that probably one of the best ways to improve that is just go over and paint with some translucent paints to give some visual texture to what's going on and do something so that this is, because right now all we've got is a great light gray box with these pieces of paper on it. So I, from the other houses that we've seen, this one is not really what I'm expecting from artists yet. I think that this person with just maybe an hour or half an hour could add some very interesting uh, visual texture to this. Just as something as simple as using a wash of paint and then going back over again after that dries and spraying it with some paint dipped in with a toothbrush spraying over it. I think that would make a very interesting texture. It looks like it's supposed to be a boarded up shack, and I have seen houses that actually look like this, but the ones that I've seen have that kind of weathered texture to them. I really like how they incorporated these folds and stuff in the materials that they use. I think that's interesting. And this does look really dynamic, but I think this would be much more fascinating with a little bit of visual texture to it. Now this, I don't know exactly what's going on with this, but it looks like it's the exact same setup, just with different skulls around it. And I, if it's the same, it looks like it's the same three pictures, just slightly moved. And one of the things I said specifically is that that will not count. We need to be moving these around. And these three look like they are almost identical, with the house just slightly moved and different things around it. So I would say for this person, you could keep one of those three and then look at that list and take the other shots outside. And if you do decide to rework this house so that it has more visual texture, what I would recommend is doing that and then just replacing those two photos that are almost identical. Like number one, number two, and number four are almost the same. I think this is really interesting, but I'm not seeing a dramatic close-up, but I'm not seeing it far away. I really like this. I think this is a very fun one. I like this shot. We can see a little bit more of what's going on, the way it's lit. We can see more texture to it. I think that's really kind of interesting. That's a fascinating one. And I like this. This is a very unusual setting. I think this is very well, maybe this is the lighting. That's really kind of cool too. I like this. I think that this is a very interesting photo. But for this person, I would recommend replacing these two, and because you've already got this setting right here, I think this is a really interesting one. Um, and you replace these two, I would recommend before doing these photos, maybe adding a little bit more visual texture to this. And pay attention to, we have that list of five things: close up, distance view, unusual setting, unexpected lighting, super creative view. And I'm thinking that maybe three, four, or five are all covered, but we need to do a close up and a distance view. Or maybe the close up is covered and we need to do a distance view and unusual setting. Maybe this one is the close up. All right, so I think that one needs a little bit more work on it. Okay, and that is all the ones that have been turned in. Okay, so and that's what I'll be doing as when we turn in assignments, just looking at what's been turned in and talking about them in relationship to the assignments. And and the more we have turned in, the better assessment for everybody. Now, I want to go back over the ones that I use as examples and talk about what is good about them. Okay, it's an unusual setting, and the house has a really good visual texture to it. It's a very simple design, but you can see they did some painting, so we have a little bit of interest going on. Right up here, it's a little bit interesting. This is really a fantastic one where the person put a lot of visual texture in these bricks, painting them like that first house we looked at today. I did some of that. And I like how they took and painted cardboard to look like these boards and put that on top. So it looked like they were boarded over. And what you can't tell right now is like that other one that we looked at. I think it was the third one we looked at. This person cut out these window holes and put parchment paper, like baking parchment, behind it, and they could light it from the inside. That looked really fascinating too. And then we have both of these. This is very heavily painted. So there's a lot going on here. And it looks rusty and everything like that. Very interesting. And this one, like I said, it's a relatively simple design, but they did do a lot of painting and put a lot of visual texture on it. And that turned out well. And it looks like to me that this is actually sticks that they painted and then glued on. So very, very interesting one. Both of these are fascinating. This one, they didn't do a lot of visual texture on it, painting the slats, but and you know, you can tell it's solid painting, but because they used wood on that, it kind of picks up the texture there, and I think it does a really good job. And you can see the cracks, and again, makes it very interesting. And again, they use parchment paper right here, so they could light it, and did some fascinating stuff with there. I really like what they did on the roof. I think that that's really interesting. And this one, they made a very similar house, and in this case, they actually did went a little bit more on the paint. So it does feel like there's more texture to it. And this one turned out really well too. This one is a very simple house, and you can tell they cut out the windows and everything and put paper behind it so they get lighted from the inside. This is really simple. It's all solid black, and most of their photos on this are taken in this kind of gray background. So you see a lot of this kind of shadow and stuff, and made for a very interesting effect. And this one, the person you can tell, you know, open windows here and here, open doorway. You can see the inside of it. They used like a Pinewood Derby maybe wheel here, or maybe a bottle lid that they painted black for a wheel, and used a lot of popsicle sticks. This one I think is just really fascinating. They did simple blue paint for the roof, but they used some textural paint right here where they put a turquoise and then a couple other colors, so it looks aged. And I think that this one turned out really well. So that kind of stuff I think is great to do because it makes it more interesting to photograph, and it makes it more rewarding to the person who's looking at it as well. And it fits the expectation that we have in an art class. Okay, the next thing I want to show you, as you're doing this, I am overlapping stuff. We're not going to stop something completely and then go to the next one completely. I We do want to overlap a little bit. It's there's a principle called slow motion multitasking, where you study one thing for a bit, you let that marinate in your mind as you switch to something else. This is what you've been doing. This is what intelligent people do all the time. This is what you've been doing for years if you've been going to school, where you take not all classes in one semester are going to be engineering or uh, digital design. Your classes are going to be focusing on different things, and you switch from one topic to another. Maybe you're taking philosophy with your art class. Maybe you're doing something else entirely. You have a job. You're also working, solving problems at your job. Slow motion multitasking is where your brain in the background is working subconsciously regarding issues and information that you have from another subject as you're doing a different subject. And what that allows your brain to do is make connections that may not have been made otherwise. And it really expands your expression of creativity. And so we do overlap the modules as you're finishing this one up. I want you to start looking at the background information for the next one and start thinking about that. And we're going to talk about that next one right now. But one of the reasons I want to do that is because it does, as your brain sets some information into the background, starts working on it subconsciously, it will help you deal with different issues as you're working on different things. Now, there's some good examples and some bad examples in here. We're going to look at some of the bad examples, and we're going to look at the really good examples. Now, when we do this module is defining volumetric form of line. You're making a three-dimensional sketch in space with the wire in your kit, and you're using it as kind of a three-dimensional scribble is what you're going to be working with. Now, these are interesting, and I have them so you can see kind of the detail that's possible with wire. But I don't particularly like these for my students to do because yes, this is in space, but this is a vertical plane, and the only reason it's 3D is because it's mounted on a wood platform and it's standing upright. We're not working on a vertical plane. We're not working on a flat space that has just changed directions. We are working in 3D. Now, both of these I think are really interesting. They both use wire. They both approach it differently. This I think is fascinating, where it looks like the wire starts off as a scribble and it's collapsing, collapsing, becoming more solid. You don't have the time or the materials to do this. But I want you to look at this space right in here, how the form is starting to be developed because of the 3D scribbles. I think this is really interesting. Again, you don't have the time or the materials to work on this in this class, but I think this is fascinating. This is going for the same, this is doing the same kind of thing as the deer, but opposite. Like here, it looks like the scribble is coalescing into a form, and here it looks like the form is deconstructing into a scribble. I think this is really interesting how tight this is, but you can see that this space right in here, where it's starting to lose cohesion, that's the space I'd like you to look at. Right here, where it's starting to generate cohesion, is a space I want you to look at. And I think that this is a student work, and I really like this. Okay, this is a cow, and I want you to use, I would prefer that you work, well, I would really like you to work with an object that you recognize, and because it's going to make it easier, I think, on you as you try to start to define the form. But there's some things that this person is doing that I really want you to focus on for this next assignment. One is it's an object that they've chosen that you can recognize. And another one is look at, they've used three different kinds of line quality with how they've worked with the wire. One is they've kind of twisted the wire together to make these stabilizing legs. And these things should stand by themselves. If you have to hold them up when you photograph, don't photograph them like that. They need to stand by themselves. And when you photograph, um, next week I will talk about it a little bit more. I did a very short video showing how to make an infinity screen in your home. There's a photo lab on campus that you can use too. And we'll talk about that more on next week when we meet. But I will see if I can find that video. I will link it in the attendance for this week, so you can watch that video. Is basically an infinity screen is where you are putting a nondescript background behind your sculpture, so you don't have any harsh horizontal lines, you don't have any harsh changes in color behind your photo. When you see this photo, what do you look at? You look at the sculpture. And there's shadows and things like that, but the sculpture is the important thing. If there's a strong horizontal line, it detracts from that. If you're taking an image on the floor in the corner of a room, you have the hardwood floor and the corner of the room juxtaposing, it detracts from the sculpture. We're going to make an infinity screen where you drape a white sheet over a couch and you pull the bottom towards you a little bit so you don't see any sharp angles behind you where the sheet changes direction. You place the object there, light it with lamps, lanterns, overhead lights, ring lights, whatever you have. Control the lighting so that everything focuses on the sculpture, and then that's how you take a photo of it. And we'll talk more about that next week as well. But I will find that video and link it for you so you can see it. So one thing I talked about was it's an identifiable object. You can do a shoe, hand, um, a bird, but an identifiable object is good. And you notice that the person is not paying a lot of attention to being naturalistic. And then I talked about different kinds of line quality. Look at how these are twisted together to make the stable feet. They are developing three-dimensional form by making a 3D sculpture, and you can get the sense, I hope, that this is a three-dimensional body. It's something that you can hold in your hand. It is not flat. We are not doing flat. People have done this with flowers before. I say do not do flowers and leaves. Don't do flowers and leaves. It is very problematic to make that three-dimensional, so it activates the volume of space around it, and you will most likely have to redo it. Because we all scribble flowers, we make them flat, it's hard to translate them into 3 dimensions. You can tell that this is 3D. All right. Now, notice they're not paying attention to the anatomy of the cow. That's fine. Who cares? For this, we are using the scribbles, the three-dimensional scribbles of the wire, to define how this object activates the space around it. And then you can see they're switching into, they have the scribble quality of line. I said there were three, very tight scribble. And then right here, the third quality is they're using the line to get some actual detail. So we have loops for the ears, we have some scribbles for the eyes. You can see that there's some line in there where it kind of defines the nose a little bit. So we're being a lot more careful right here. And I love that. I don't really, it doesn't make a lot of difference to me as to which line quality you use the where, but I'm going to go through this and I want to find some good student examples to talk to you about. So let's see. Okay, so this is the actual assignment, and these are the scribbles that students have done. And you don't have to adhere to your scribble perfectly with the wire, but I do suggest when you get started on this, get something to protect your eyes, get some gardening gloves. The wire will get your hands really dirty, and it can jab your fingers. In your kits, you have tools to work with the wire. I want you to protect your eyes and your skin. So, find some old gardening gloves to use. Definitely wear eye protection. And you can get like a $2 or $3 set of plastic goggles or plastic glasses to protect your eyes at Hobby Lobby. Walmart has some really, really cheap ones. Just and if you have regular glasses, wear those, but just be really careful because you can stab yourself with this. And I used to put together those blown glass chandeliers like you see at Bravenel Hall. We use stainless steel wire to hang those to the scaffolding. And that stainless steel wire can poke into your skin faster than you believe possible and go deeper than you believe possible. It is stunning how much that hurts. So wear some gloves. But I want you to see the scribble there, and then these are some student examples. And I want to talk through all of these. I think all of them have good points. Here is, when we looked at that cow earlier, it was pretty dense. This is not very dense. This is a pair of shoes, and you can see they use several different kinds of line quality. We have the looping lines that are really free and open, and we have these tight little scribbly lines that are used to kind of hold it together, and some more detail areas. I love how this is done because it isn't photo accurate to sloppy sneakers that are used and comfortable, but it really feels like that because of how the person put them together and how they're paying attention to how they use the wire. And then here, I think is a little bit more closer to the cow, but you can see they used one way of kind of forming these legs. The arms are a little bit different where they have these long loops that traverse the length of the arms, and then they have these coils right here. Here, the legs are more freeform. The body feels like it's um, quite a bit more open. The arms are a lot more dense than the body. And then the eyes and the mouth and the head, it's interesting to me how much detail. I mean, they cut a lot of lengths of wire and wrapped it up and stuff. So you get this almost stitching kind of feel with how chaotic the wire is here. So I really love how they use several different kinds of ways of molding the wire into the form. And here we have Popeye. And you can see, in all of these, one of the things that is that all of these stand by themselves. Do not take a photo with your hand. And the reason why um, the infinity screen on this is so good is because on this infinity screen, they use the photo lab. And the photo lab is on campus. If you are able to get on campus, you can use the photo lab, but you can also make an infinity screen yourself. So you can do both things. The photo lab on campus is you go to room 519. Again, you do not go into the room if there's a class in session without talking to the professor. And the professor says, please don't, then wait till the class is over. But you go into that room 519, turn right immediately on going through the door, and you'll follow that wall to your right along, and there's a closet door at the end. Open the closet door, and that is a long, narrow closet, at the end of which is the infinity screen for sculpture students. And you can use that anytime the class is not in session in 519 and anytime the building is open. I have a lot of people that go in after 7 o'clock at night. The building will be open until 10, and or during Saturdays when classes aren't in session, they'll go in and work on and take photos of the photo lab. So again, if you don't have access to campus, you can make your own infinity screen, and I will find that video and put it into the attendance for this week so you can watch it. We look at the Popeye here, and you can tell he's Popeye because of the anchors on his forearms. And I want you to pay attention to how they use the wires that this structure could stand by itself. And they use the infinity screen as well. And I think it's an interesting, I don't know how they did that lighting. Almost seems like they did, uh, maybe they didn't use the infinity screen at the campus. Maybe they used some of that, the foam paper wrapping and you made an infinity screen under that. But you can see that they did different things with, open loops for the feet, a little bit more stability on the legs here, and the Popeye the Sailor Man kind of face is a little bit abstracted, so it's hard to tell exactly what it is. But you can see how they generate three-dimensional form using the scope of the wire. And there, here we have I believe this is an at Walker from Revenge. What's it called? Empire Strikes Back on the moon of Endor. But you can see how they use the wire to construct a very mechanical looking structure. And the head, this is really open. And I prefer if there was a little bit more detail on the sides, but I really like the detail here. I like how they made those legs. I think that's fascinating. Now, this reminds me of just a sloppy dog sock puppet kind of thing. And I think that's really fun. You can see how they made it very loose with lots of wide open coils, but you can see the 3D definition very well. And we have a little um, sturdy bird right here on their swing in a bird cage. I think this one on the right is a lot more effective than the one on the left. And I'll tell you why. One is you can really feel the whole form being constructed. Here, it's a bird cage, and the only way that you can see this top form is by these very simple vertical lines. If you're going to do something like this, have some horizontal stuff going on so we can feel the volume being generated. And you can see that the only detail is on the exterior surface of this, other than the bird on the inside. And I think this one on the right is a lot more satisfying than the one on the left. And this is one of my favorite ones. This is very open, and you can see how open it is, but they put a lot of interesting detail in it in some of the places where there's detail. We have the fins are very interesting looking, I think, rather simple. You see how the lines of the fish are made more interesting instead of just simple singular strands like this one. The person had a lot more interest by coiling the wire around it, giving it some texture. One of the questions that I get is, can we use additional wire yes, you can use additional wire. Go to Cal Ranch, go to Harbor Freight. They have wire there that's super, super cheap. Get some, use that, use silver, use black, use different densities. If you make jewelry, use some of that wire to add some color to it. Well, what we're looking for is a scribble design that is three-dimensional and activates the volume of space, just like this. I think these are pretty good examples of what we're doing. Okay, so I know that this is not as long as maybe what you were hoping for. Trying to do about an hour and a half, but that's what we needed to cover today. And like I said, I will get caught up on grading as soon as I get back to internet. But please try when you see the due dates, get the stuff done by then or earlier if you can, so that we have stuff to talk about in class. That way, everybody can see what they need to improve on, if they need to improve on anything, or what to do if they haven't started doing something. And I think what we've seen, these examples that I've shown you, are all really good to get started with. The people that submitted them, a couple of them may need to work on resubmitting some stuff, but overall, I think the houses are really good. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to give me an email and I will answer them. And just and give me just a minute here. I'm going to try to find the video that I did with making the infinity screen. If I can find that, then okay. Okay, I found it. And what I'm going to be doing is putting this in the attendance thing, but we'll talk about it right now as well, right? By the attendance thing, I mean the weekly attendance. So here we go. And I'm not going to do sound. I think I may have accidentally put sound on it. Um, that's not important. But I want to show this to you so you can see how simple it is to document your artwork at home. And the reason that we want to document our artwork properly is you spend time on this stuff. You spend time on it, and I hope that you respect the effort that you've made in your own work. Um, and when you document it, take photos, turn it in, viewers should be seeing your work the way you want it to be seen. That as much as possible, we want that. And by doing something, a simple setup like this, it makes it so that um, your work has the focus. So we're going to go ahead and watch this. Again, it's not very long. That's just a simple white sheet that I draped over a box. You can see I'm trying to get rid of a little bit of uh, the creases that normally show up behind. Now I haven't tucked it in straight or anything like that, and you see the sheet is kind of wrinkly. And here I'm just talking about how I'm adjusting the lights for the volume. And in this case, I have some floor lamps and like a IKEA lamp as well. And then my sister-in-law gave me one of her little ring stand lamps or ring light stands. I'm just kind of setting those up a little bit. And there's the sculpture that I'm putting up. And here I'm just kind of moving, you can see by the shadow, I'm just kind of moving the lights around. And you can use lamps or whatever you want to. Okay, so they're very simple. see how easy it is to set that up. All right. So, and I will include that short little thing with the comment, and there is commentary in the video that you can watch. Okay. Sorry, I'm just checking something on my finger. I don't know if it's a bug bite or what. So those are the things that I needed to talk about this week. If you have any questions, please email me. There's been a couple people that have been really, really sick, which it always sucks to be sick. And there's a couple people that have been out of town that are now you're catching up. Please feel free to, please just keep me in the loop and let me know what's going on. Take care of the things that you need to. I think that your health and your family should be more important than this class. So I am happy to have you communicate with me and let me know what's going on. If you're not able to turn things in on time, um, if one thing that I do is I'll go through and when I grade, you might see a zero on something if it hasn't been submitted yet. To fix it, all you've got to do is submit it. I put zeros on because I assume that you've forgotten and gotten busy, and the zero should trigger Canvas to remind you that you needed to turn that in. So um, I I hope all this helps with moving forward. And next week we are going to talk probably a little bit more about this, but I'm thinking we're also going to be talking about the research and service learning stuff a little bit next week. If due dates kind of sneak up on you, a lot of that is going to be I try to catch due date changes and when I populate and publish a new course. If the due dates seem a little bit off or funny to you, let me know so I can change that. And also, as you are going through the modules, if you don't see an image or if a link is broken, please let me know as soon as you can. Email me, email me through the university email system or text me. If anybody has texted me, it's important that you include your name and the course that you're taking so I know it's who it is. Right, well, thank you very much, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And I look forward to visiting with everybody again next week.